Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Léna, and today we're exploring the world of dark academia. So, dark academia, as defined by Wikipedia, is an aesthetic centered on higher education, writing, the arts, and classic and Greek Gothic architecture, as well as romantic longing and death, like cottagecore, goblincore, and grandmacore, gained popularity on the online platforms TikTok and Tumblr. The Urban Dictionary definition of dark academia is a bit more focused on what the aesthetic looks like. It emphasizes the old and classic literature or philosophy and the themes of existentialism and death. It characterizes dark academia as essentially a knowledgeable vintage emo. Right now, currently, dark academia is most popular on TikTok. It has also gained popularity on Instagram and on Tumblr, which is essentially where it was born. The earliest mention of dark academia I could find on the internet dates from January 2017 from the Tumblr user Holocene Days, who states, "The Holy Trinity of dark academia, that is, Kill Your Darlings, Dead Poet Society, and The Secret History." Those three stories are basically centered on young people in academic settings. Typically, there is some kind of tension between societal expectations and the expression of their individuality or difference, and these tensions can lead to tragedy. So earlier, dark academia was defined as a genre of fiction, mostly literary, but also of movies. And as a genre, it had a fandom. The fandom was basically an offshoot of the white men in ambiguous homoerotic friendships and sweaters fandom. So it was basically mood boards and fan cast of the story. But as soon as 2018, people were pointing out the shortcomings of those novels and stories. They didn't have many female characters, didn't have people of color or satisfying LGBTQ representation. And soon after, people started discussing what dark academia in a novel could look like if those elements were improved. There were discussions around the dark themes of academia, and I guess trying to expand the syllabus of dark academia beyond the stories of like elite boarding schools and murder. Dark academia was essentially a story set in an academic settings with dark themes, such as grey morality, ambition, social climbing, codependent friendship dynamics, class tension, and narrative devices such as unreliable narrators. All of those elements were seen as things to incorporate in fictional narratives to give it a dark academic twist. And really, the fandom was a fandom. It was mostly lighthearted, making jokes at the expense of the kind of ridiculous and silly, pretentious characters, poking fun at their way of lives, making jokes about murder, exploring the morality of those characters, and maybe, yes, taking inspiration from their fashion choices. As I remember, there was a huge demand for stories focused on women, especially queer women, because as we know, fandom is led by young girls and young women, and so they wanted to see themselves in those stories. And to me, this was a space that had a lot of potential in that people were trying to create something new. They were trying to push for new stories that would reflect the lives of marginalized people in dark academia. To me, dark academia as it was then was compelling because it meant exploring those dark areas of our lives through fiction, and really how in our coming of age years, and especially in the bubble of academia, those issues became really a huge part of your life. So basically, yes, I discovered dark academia as I was moving into my college years and dealing with a lot of elitist, racist, classist, sexist folks. It was interesting to me because kind of helped me deconstruct the facade of excellence that these higher education institutions hide behind to justify, in a way, their exclusionary practices. I guess you could say that I've had experiences that could classify as dark academia, not because my campus was particularly picturesque or because it was like covered in ivy or whatever, not because of what I wore, but because I dealt with grief and class tensions, intense, complicated friendships, weird, creepy, guru-esque professors, and substance abuse and subjects that are basically dealt with in dark academia. So yeah, I want to make a rough list of works that can be considered dark academia, not necessarily in aesthetics, but in themes. So you have the Formation, Holy Trinity, but you also have Dear White People, Riverdale. Recently, I saw a text about saying Legally Blonde is dark academia, and it is. You have, I don't know, I was thinking American Vandal, The Raven Cycle, Elite, The Social Network is very much dark academia. We have all those dance movies, so like Suspiria, the one from the 70s, and the 2018 one even more, I feel. Of course, Black Swan, the one movie Roro, where the girl is in med school, that's definitely dark academia. Morris, which is one of the rare dark academia movies that has explicit gay representation. How to Get Away with Murder. I mean, so much stuff is dark academia, and it's so interesting as a genre. So in a sense, dark academia, although people did aspire to the aesthetic, was broadly understood as a genre of cautionary tales. I mean, you wouldn't read The Secret History or Kill Your Darlings as something to emulate, although people did misread these stories back then, and it was kind of an issue, and there was a divide between people who wanted to be like Henry Winter and like kill their annoying friend, and people who were like Henry Winter didn't know that the moon landing happened, you know. But basically, those were all roughly cautionary tales, and since those works had tragedy baked into it, it provided a form of catharsis. And I guess that's the appeal of works that have dark themes, is that you can live through those portions through fiction. And I guess that's what drew me into this subculture, fandom, I guess. But dark academia has changed quite a bit since 2018, and now there are articles being written about it. And I think that in its evolution and when it changed platforms, it really shifted the focus of dark academia shifted, and the focus of the community around dark academia shifted. So one of the reasons why it did is that TikTok and Instagram are much more visual platforms. I mean, Tumblr has a huge visual culture, but you can also write hundreds of paragraphs of text without needing a picture to accompany it. So essentially, those are mainly image-based platforms. And those platforms took dark academia out of its original context of fandom, which fandom as a concept itself has its issues, but in a sense, fandom is a site of exchange and discussion. Now that it's on these different platforms, it's become mostly an aesthetic movement. So it's no longer a group of elements and themes that you can find in fiction, but it's something that you are and something that you do. That aesthetic element was definitely present in the early days of dark academia, but it really became the crux of dark academia in the later years. Now, dark academia as an aesthetic is articulated, as we said at the beginning, around few clothes, architectural forms, house decor that is basically borrowing from the past, or the idea of the past. I mean, there is influences from mid-century and between the two wars. There's like Victorian influences, and there's also a lot that is borrowed from ancient Greek ideals. But beyond an aesthetic, dark academia also has a lifestyle aspect. So there's this notion that you're an academic or a dark academic, and all the expectations of passion and excellence that come with it, the idea that there is a search for knowledge at all costs, and with a very narrow definition of what is knowledge, and I'll come back to this later. And so in that lifestyle aspect, dark academia comes off as a study community. I mean, it's interesting, but to me, the moment a visual aesthetic becomes something that you are, or that you do, something to emulate, or even a part of your identity, the only way to signal your belonging to other members of the internet is to show off the material goods that fit into the aesthetic, or to articulate your life around this aesthetic. So the creation aspect in current dark academia is not about creating stories, but in manufacturing your life for people on the internet to see the values you project. So most of the content on dark academia today is mostly prescriptive. Like, you should do this, wear this, read this, study this way. And those how-tos and guidelines on how to dress, how to behave, how to study, what to read and watch, they seem to be in the name of self-improvement. Basically, dark academia as it exists now feels like a self-improvement guide. Like, if you read X book, you will be more cultured or more enlightened. Or if you live in like X architectural setting, your life will feel better. But I'm not too sure about this. I mean, that's the thing for me. When things become identities mostly expressed through aesthetics, through visuals, they really lose their complexity and they become easily commodified and limited. I feel like this current version of academia is a bit alienating. I guess that shift in what dark academia means was mostly influenced by the popular injunction of romanticize your own life. Be the main character. I mean, it's no longer enough to find yourself in works of fiction and experience stories. You have to make your life into a cohesive whole, a narrative that makes sense, even when your life can't really be that. You have to be like a character in the story of your own life. But to me, that's damaging, because that's the opposite of appreciating the little things in life. It's the performance of contemplation, but it's counterintuitive, because when you're contemplating, when you're truly contemplating, you don't think about what that would look like to an audience. And so it's like this current iteration of dark academia is like you're standing outside of yourself, trying to figure out how to package your experiences for your TikTok or your Instagram. And it's like isn't it a bit empty to try to to manufacture your lived experiences for them to fit into an aesthetic. Like, you can have appreciation for beautiful things, but to only live your life in accordance with those beautiful things and the standards they set, I feel like that can be a bit depressing. And of course, there's probably a form of escapism to it. Because there was a form of escapism to reading dark academia works. But I guess I'm just not understanding the value of that. I don't mean to be harsh, but I just have issues with it. I just don't find it as interesting as what it was like. I mean, I feel like I'm being a party pooper, but I don't know, it's just not the same. Do I sound like a boomer? Like, it was better back in my days 3 years ago. But yeah, I mean, beyond like my party pooper opinions on the whole trend of like romanticize your own life, there have been issues in dark academia since its very beginning, and they haven't really improved. I mean, essentially, the issue is academia. I mean, if you're going to celebrate academia as a site of coming of age and like self-actualization, you're going to have to contend with the fact that it's super exclusionary. Like, I don't know. Like, first of all, the whiteness of dark academia is overwhelming. Obviously, it reflects the pervasive whiteness of regular old academia, but it's like this pale, this saturated aesthetic, and it's like it was based mostly on media featuring white people, and even when there are people of color, it's ignored in the favor of white people. I mean, there are a few creators of color that are trying to push for more inclusion, but it's a battle that's been going on since 2017, so we're not there yet. There's also, of course, the classism of dark academia, the exclusion of lower income people from participating. I mean, I feel like this is an issue that has been actually exacerbated by the shift, because the point of entry into this community has become higher. I mean, before you had like to read a book from the 90s that you could find on your library, and then you could like watch those movies on streaming. But now, I mean, now that it's no longer a fandom but a lifestyle, you kind of have to buy into that lifestyle. You can see that the most popular participants in that trend have certain very easily identifiable clothing items and decor items. I mean, that's cash. They go to like those picturesque universities. That's a lot more cash, especially in the US. And lower income people can thrive and they can go to community college, but essentially they cannot emulate those people and this type of conspicuous consumption. Another really important exclusionary aspect of dark academia is its focus on Western culture and a Western approach to knowledge at all costs, basically. And also the focus on like ancient Greek thought, whatever that means, and the complete ignorance of non-Western culture. I mean, once again, there are people trying to change that. I don't have much faith that it will change. I'm not usually a cynic, but in a way, it's not that bad, because if the result is to dilute those cultures to unrecognizable levels so that it can be consumed, I'm not too sure I want that to happen to like Rumi or Aimé Césaire, you know? Like, nah. And so, yeah, that's my assessment on dark academia. I guess I just prefer dark academia as a site of reflection of what our stories about academia could convey. I'd rather see someone be working on a story about a black kid in university trying to deal with societal pressures and trying to become an adult, than someone fighting for more black people in mood boards. I mean, because one is about the agency of being able to tell your own stories, and the other is about the appearance of inclusion. And it's not a bad fact, it's not my priority. I feel like anyways the current iteration of dark academia doesn't have room for darkness at all, and I'm not talking about skin tone, but like as an aspirational lifestyle. It's been completely scrubbed clean of what made dark academia compelling. It's been turned into like this love child of booktube and study blur, but kind of slightly more edgy and pretentious, you know? I say this with love. And it's like, oh, there's this superficial darkness of like smoking and drinking and dark colored clothes, but where's the darkness of codependent relationships, tragedy, grief, excessive ambition? Like, I miss that. I miss when that was what was being explored in the genre. And the thing about fiction is that the mere depiction of something isn't a promotion of it. And that more often than not, criticism of academia was baked into the text of dark academia works. So now that it's turned into an aesthetic, and that the aesthetic is divorced from the fiction, what was once a critique and an exploration of, for example, elitism, ends up upholding and glamorizing the appearance of elitism. So yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the missteps of dark academia. And okay, my camera cut like five seconds before I finished. But even as an aesthetic, I just feel like it's a rebranding of preppy, but for the 2020 Gen Z crowd that wasn't fashion aware during the golden age of Gossip Girl. So it's not that interesting to me. Yes, I am wearing like fancy schmancy shirt. I wore that for a wedding. So yeah. I hope you liked this video. I hope it was interesting. I know I wasn't the nicest. I may have been a bit harsh. Honestly, don't hesitate to like contradict everything I've said in the comments. I want to have a discussion. Maybe I have a few blind spots and I can't see the appeal of current dark academia because I'm just a bitter old man shouting at the clouds. But you know, I'm ready to hear that I'm wrong. So yeah, I hope you liked this video. If you did, feel free to leave a like and maybe to subscribe to my channel. I'm not saying there will be more videos like this, but who knows? And if you didn't like it, you can, no, I'm not gonna, don't dislike it, but you can leave a comment telling me why you disliked it. And yeah, I hope to see you soon. Bye.